This is part 6 of the Behavioral Economics Basics series, and today we will be covering the framing effect. The framing effect is how information is presented and how that can influence people's choices. So, when people view things differently, they will make different choices, and the framing effect is used to kind of represent the same thing in a new light. There are four types of framing effects. The first one is auditory. So this is when the actual tone of the voice or anything that's audio related is being used to reinforce the message and therefore frame something in a positive effect or to frame something in a specific way. So, for example, if I was saying, if a salesperson is speaking more confidently, they're framing them. If a salesperson is speaking loudly with no filler words and they're just speaking off the top of their head, then the way that they frame themselves is very confident, and that is going to more likely gather this customers' attention compared to if the same person was to speak very shyly in a very small voice with lots of filler words, then they'll be framed as a timid person and therefore gather the customer's attention less. The second one is visual. So this is anything that people can physically see, such as font size or colors or shape and style, etc. The way that it can be framed is very important. So let's say I have a burger and I frame it as I incorporate in my marketing, I use lots of bright colors, I use a very fun font, then that frames it as a very fun burger, whereas it frames it as something that's delicious or something that tastes good, right? But if I were to put the same burger but shoot it under darker lighting, and I were to add a dark background with some fonts and make it seem gloomy, then automatically it becomes something different, even though they're physically the same product. The third one is body language. So this is because body language accounts for 55% of the content that's actually being communicated. And body language can include verbal and nonverbal communication, such as voice, facial expressions, as well as posture. An example of this is someone with a commanding voice is likely to make others feel more receptive, so they frame themselves as a highly capable person. The last one, which is the least common, the last one is the most common, and it's value proposition, which is making consumers feel as if they're getting a bigger value than the actual one. An example of this is if I were to have yogurt and 20% of it is fat. I can either present it as 20% fat, or I can just say 80% fat free. When I see 20% fat, I just think, there's some negative downside to this yogurt. Whereas if I highlight the positive part, 80% fat free, I'll just think, oh, well, this is a fat free yogurt. I don't actually look at the percentages, and even though they're basically saying the same thing, the way that they presented encourages me to buy the second one more. Another example is, this is a demonstration of the value proposition, but if I say something $1,000 is $200 off, versus if I say that same item worth $1,000 is 20% off, people would most likely gravitate towards the $200 because it's a bigger value. Rather, if I would just say 20% off and I see 20 versus 200, I'd probably pick 200 because that feels like it's more worth it for me. When it's actually the same amount of value, both are $200 and both are 20% off. That concludes the framing effect. I will see you in part 7. Thank you.